6 years together. 3 of them spent getting to know each other, the next 3 falling deeper in love than I ever thought possible. And now I was finally going to marry the love of my life, Natalie Crawford. The night before the wedding, I was a complete wreck, tossing and turning in bed like a man possessed. As I finally sat up, thinking a midnight walk might clear my racing thoughts, a few lines of text flickered into existence in my vision, like comments on a live stream. "Oh man, look at this simp, too excited to sleep. He has no idea the main character is about to crash his wedding tomorrow. Don't hate, guys. The dude's life is a tragedy. After his fiancée gets stolen at the altar, he's going to keep simping for her and even end up raising another man's kid. After 3 years of dating, I wanted to give my girlfriend Natalie the wedding of her dreams. I bought the ring and planned an elaborate proposal with my closest friends. Surrounded by 1,000 red roses in the botanical gardens, I looked deep into Natalie's eyes, dropped to one knee, and pulled the diamond ring from my pocket. "Natalie Crawford," I asked, my voice thick with emotion that threatened to crack. "Will you marry me?" Natalie gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, her eyes sparkling like they held the entire night sky. Urged on by the cheers of our friends, tears of joy streamed down her face as she nodded vigorously. "Yes, yes I will," she whispered. In that moment, I was the happiest man alive. Or so I thought, until the night before our wedding, when those strange comments appeared in my field of vision. "This sympathetic side character is still too excited to sleep, lol. Little does he know the hero, Damien, is coming to steal his bride tomorrow. Stop flaming him, it's just sad. He gets publicly humiliated and still goes crawling back. The guy's been played from the start. He's basically scripted to be a doormat. Just sit back and enjoy the show, people." I frowned, completely thrown by the bizarre floating text. Was it just sleep deprivation playing tricks on my exhausted mind, or was I being haunted by some digital ghost? I tried to shake it off and laid back down. Tomorrow was the most important day of my life. I couldn't afford to be off my game, not with both families watching, not with everything I'd planned. But as soon as I closed my eyes, the text flared again, bright and impossible to ignore. Yep, the script is right on track. The main character, Damien Cross, crashes the wedding tomorrow. The joke is this chump gets totally brainwashed by a few crocodile tears from the female lead, and then he uses his own resources to help her and the hero get there happily ever after. It's fate, man. The words grated on me, making my head spin and my stomach churn with unease. I had a terrible, sinking feeling they might be true. I knew Damien Cross all too well. He was Natalie's high school sweetheart, the one that got away, the ghost she never quite stopped mentioning in passing. But he'd been overseas for years, and Natalie had never mentioned him coming back. This was getting out of control. I wasn't going to get any sleep at this rate. With a flicker of intent, I discovered I could control the comments. I mentally swiped them away, shutting them off like closing a browser window. I needed to relax, to clear my mind. I couldn't let some ghost in the machine nonsense ruin my big day. People say when your spirit is weak, you're more susceptible to paranormal stuff. Maybe I needed to see a priest or something, get myself blessed before the ceremony. The next day, I woke up early feeling surprisingly sharp and alert. On a whim, I tried to test if last night was just a hallucination brought on by pre-wedding jitters and exhaustion. I focused my mind, and just like that, the comment feed flickered back on. A few scattered remarks popped up. It's almost time for the big scene. So hyped, waiting for the hero to make his move. This is going to be epic. The comments made my stomach tighten into a painful knot. Was it possible? Could the woman I'd loved for 3 years really be playing me? Was my entire life some kind of cosmic joke designed for the entertainment of unseen spectators? I didn't want to believe it. The thought was too painful, too absurd. I shut the feed off again, trying to focus on the day ahead. My family, the Blackwoods, were one of the founding families of Harborview City. For this wedding, nearly every notable name in the city had shown up, dressed in their finest. I'd booked the entire top floor of the Grand Excelsior, the biggest and most prestigious hotel downtown. The guests were all seated in elegant rows, and the ceremony was proceeding smoothly, like a well-rehearsed play. I watched Natalie walk down the aisle in her white gown, a radiant smile on her face, a smile I'd never quite seen before. It was different, somehow. I should have felt it was the joy of our wedding day, the culmination of years of love, but now it felt wrong, artificial, like she was performing for an audience. Just as the officiant began the vows, his voice solemn and reverent, asking if the bride and groom would promise to love each other for all time, a loud shout ripped through the serene moment like a gunshot. I object. At the sound of that voice, Natalie's head snapped around with startling speed, her face breaking into a look of pure, unadulterated joy that I'd never witnessed directed at me. "Damien," she cried out, her voice filled with longing. I froze, standing at the altar like an idiot, like a statue carved from disbelief. The moment hit me like a lightning bolt frying my circuits. The comments, they were all true. Every single one of them. I instinctively switched the feedback on, and my vision was flooded with text scrolling at a nauseating speed. "He's here. He's here. The hero has arrived to save the day. OMG, they're so perfect together. Ship it hard. Man, this Ethan Blackwood guy is just pathetic. It's an honor for him to be a stepping stone for our main couple. Wow, the mental gymnastics to justify being a terrible person. Impressive." It hit me then, harder than any physical blow could. I was nothing but a clown in someone else's story, a footnote in the epic romance of the main characters. Before I could even process the full weight of this revelation, Natalie hiked up her wedding dress with both hands and ran towards Damien. They threw their arms around each other in a passionate embrace, completely oblivious to the horrified expressions on our parents' faces, to the shocked gasps rippling through the assembled guests. A wave of shocked murmurs swept through the crowd like wildfire. What the hell is going on? Isn't this Ethan Blackwood's wedding? Who's this guy? He's got guts, I'll give him that. I think that's her old flame, the one that got away. The scene was so insane, so surreal, that my best man, Marcus Hayes, took a moment to react, his jaw literally hanging open. Then he and the other groomsmen moved in with military precision. "Nat, who is this?" Marcus asked, his voice low and tight with barely controlled anger. Natalie, seemingly unaware of the catastrophic bomb she'd just detonated in the middle of my life, pulled away from Damien with a giddy smile. "Oh, Marcus, this is my childhood sweetheart, Damien. You should call him Damien." Marcus's face turned to stone, his jaw clenching. He shot a look at me, and seeing the thunderous expression on my face, the rage I could barely contain, he knew he had the green light. With a sharp nod, the groomsmen grabbed Damien and restrained him, their hands firm on his arms. Marcus leaned in close to Natalie, his voice a menacing whisper that only those nearby could hear. "Don't get too full of yourself. You dare humiliate Ethan like this in front of everyone. I'll end you." Then he straightened up, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Nat, you must be confused. It's your wedding day. Let me take care of this gentleman for you." But Natalie was used to getting her way with me, used to my indulgence and patience. She wasn't listening to reason. "Let go of him," she shrieked, her voice shrill. "Marcus Hayes, are you going to defy me now too?" When Marcus ignored her, his face an icy mask as he signaled for the groomsmen to drag Damien away, she spun back to me, her eyes blazing with entitlement. "Ethan Blackwood, look at your so-called best friend. Is this how you treat the men I grew up with?" I almost laughed. It was incredible, really. All this time, I'd seen Natalie as kind, gentle, and understanding, the perfect partner. Now I saw she was just a spoiled, clueless brat who'd never faced a single consequence in her privileged life. Her question hung in the air between us like a challenge. I looked at her, my voice dangerously calm, each word measured. "I'm going to ask you one last time. Are you leaving with Damien Cross?" A flicker of doubt crossed her face, brief but unmistakable. For all our history, for the 3 years of love I thought we had built together, a tiny part of me still held out hope. Seeing that I was genuinely furious, probably for the first time in our relationship, she softened her tone, trying to manipulate me one last time. "Ethan, you know me. I'm a sentimental person. This doesn't mean..." "Enough," I cut her off sharply. I felt a strange sense of clarity wash over me, like a massive weight being lifted from my shoulders. I could breathe again. "You can get the hell out." I turned, picked up the microphone with steady hands, and bowed to our stunned guests. "My deepest apologies to all of you," I announced, my voice ringing with newfound resolve. "It seems there's been a change of plans. This wedding is officially cancelled. I'm truly sorry for the disruption. The Blackwood family will, of course, compensate everyone generously for their time and travel. Furthermore, as of this moment, the Blackwood Corporation is terminating all partnerships and projects with the Crawford family and their company. The crowd's expressions were a mixture of shock, sympathy, and intrigue. They'd gotten one hell of a show, and were getting paid for it. Not a bad deal, all things considered. Realizing the party was over, the guests began to discreetly make their way out, offering brief condolences to my father as they passed. As for the Crawfords, without the Blackwood family's backing, they were social and financial nobodies. No one would even give them the time of day after this public disaster. It took a moment for the reality of the situation to sink in for Natalie. As the hall emptied around us, she finally stormed up to me, her voice stripped of its usual sweetness, revealing the entitled princess beneath. "Ethan, what is this? What kind of game are you playing? You told me you'd love me forever." I let out a cold, humorless laugh that echoed in the nearly empty ballroom. "And you have the audacity to say that to me? Do you think everyone is as clueless as you are?" She was speechless for a second, her mouth opening and closing like a fish, then doubled down on her delusion. "Why are you being so sensitive? Damien and I are just friends. It's purely platonic. You're overreacting." So this was the excuse the comments had mentioned, the one that was supposed to fool me completely and keep me under her thumb. It was just pathetic. I was done. I waved a dismissive hand. "Then go spend the rest of your life with your platonic soulmate." At my signal, Marcus and the groomsmen released Damien. Damien Cross, free at last, rubbed his sore shoulders and shot me a defiant glare, trying to look tough. "Don't look down on me, Blackwood. What goes around comes around. The underdog will have his day." My mouth twitched with dark amusement. A new set of comments appeared in my vision. Wait, wasn't the script that Ethan the simp believes her excuse and willingly becomes their doormat? NGL, that "what goes around comes around" line has some kick. Are you kidding? That's the most cliché bargain bin line in the book. Given how whipped he was, he's probably just saying this stuff out of anger. He'll go back to her. Mark my words. Anger. I thought. As of today, I was no longer a character in their story. I was writing my own. I looked at Damien, who was standing there like a discount hero from a bad movie, and gave him a slow, deliberate nod. "Please, by all means, go have your day. I'll be watching with great interest. Don't forget to take your childhood sweetheart with you." My words seemed to finally break through Natalie's delusion. She didn't want to actually lose me, not really. No one else could provide the lifestyle she was accustomed to, the luxury she took for granted. She forced a smile, her anger vanishing as she reached for my hand with practiced desperation. I pulled away before she could touch me. Her face crumpled as she looked at me with wide, pleading eyes that once would have melted my resolve. "Ethan, everything you said just now, you were just angry, right? You still love me. We can fix this." I emotionlessly smoothed the cuff of my shirt, my voice ice cold. "Miss Crawford, please watch what you say. We have no relationship whatsoever. I'm leaving. Do as you please." With that, I walked over to my parents. The anger on their faces had been replaced with relief and something like pride. Seeing their son finally show some backbone was exactly what they'd always wanted, what they'd begged me to do for months. "Dad, let's go home." My father nodded curtly, his hand firm on my shoulder. My mother took his arm, a small, satisfied smile playing on her lips. She had never liked Natalie, but she'd tolerated her because I'd insisted it was true love. Well, so much for that fairy tale. As I left, Marcus shot a last taunting look at Damien. "Hey, kid, I'll be waiting to see you on top. But if you ever try any dirty tricks against my boy Ethan." He drew a finger across his throat in an unmistakable gesture, then smirked and walked away. Damien flinched visibly, but remembering Natalie was watching, puffed out his chest and yelled at Marcus's back. "Barbarian. This is a civilized society governed by laws." He then turned to Natalie, his eyes full of contrived sincerity, playing the hero. "Nat, you believe in me, don't you?" Despite her fury at my rejection, she was still captivated by her romantic hero, still caught in whatever fantasy she'd built in her mind. She nodded shyly, her eyes shining. "Then lend me some money," he said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "I'm on the verge of a massive investment opportunity. I just need a little startup capital." He held up a hand as if taking an oath. "I swear I will give you a future better than anything the Blackwoods could ever offer." It was the kind of line you'd hear in a low-rent telemarketing scam, transparent and desperate, but Natalie bought it completely. Without a second thought, she pulled out her credit card to hand it to him. "I believe in you, Damien." But before he could take it, a hand shot out and slapped the card to the marble floor with a sharp crack. It was her father, Mr. Crawford, his face purple with rage. "How did I raise such a damn fool?" he roared. "You throw away a man like Ethan Blackwood for this grifter begging for money?" Damien was instantly offended, his ego wounded. "Sir, you've got it all wrong. Natalie is just a brilliant judge of character. I have a system." "I'll judge your character with my foot," Mr. Crawford bellowed, cutting him off. "If it weren't for you, you little punk, I'd be related to the Blackwoods by now. Do you have any idea what you've cost this family?" "Dad," Natalie cried out defensively. "Damien is brilliant. He just needs one big break to take off. You'll see." "Fine. Go follow your brilliant manchild to the poorhouse," her father spat. Seeing his daughter was a lost cause, completely brainwashed, he threw up his hands in disgust and stormed off. Natalie watched him go, biting her lip, but said nothing in response. Her mother simply looked at her with profound disappointment, sighed deeply, and hurried after her husband, leaving the two soulmates standing alone in the wreckage of the grand ballroom. "Ethan, what on earth happened today? Weren't you head over heels for that girl?" "Back home," my mother couldn't wait to ask, her voice a mix of concern and curiosity. "Mom, I was blind. Completely out of my mind," I said, loosening my tie and collapsing onto the plush leather sofa. The light from the crystal chandelier above fractured into a dizzying halo that hurt my tired eyes. As I did, a few new comments popped into view. "So the simp character is woke now." "Doesn't matter. The hero has a financial predictive system. The plot will correct itself. The hero uses the system to read the market, and in a few months, he'll build the fourth largest corporation in Harborview City." "Yeah, I think the side character's family company gets destroyed by a play the system makes. Shame. Ethan Blackwood is a good-looking dude. Too bad he ends up losing everything." My eyes narrowed as I processed this information. Damien has a system. Some kind of cheat ability. Just then, my father spoke, his voice firm but not unkind. "Good. Now that you're done with this childish nonsense, it's time you started learning the ropes at the company properly. No more distractions." I nodded, my mind already racing, dissecting the information from the comments. If I knew what was coming, could I fight a system designed to predict the future? Was it even possible? Later in my study, I fiddled with the expensive fountain pen my father had given me for my graduation, then made a call to an old friend who specialized in discreet information gathering. About 30 minutes later, my phone buzzed with an anonymous encrypted link. I tapped it, and a live feed from inside the Crawford house appeared on my screen, the audio crystal clear. Damien was fastening a necklace around Natalie's neck. As his fingers brushed against her skin, a strange blue light pulsed from the watch on his wrist, barely visible but definitely there. "Next Monday, there's going to be a huge smuggling bust at Eastgate Pier," he murmured confidently. "Tell your father to move all his cargo ships to Pier 3. Trust me on this." "Damien, how do you know all this?" Natalie asked, her voice filled with wonder. "I have my sources," he said with a cocky grin, the blue light on his watch glowing brighter. "Just wait. In less than 3 months, the Blackwoods will be on their knees, begging us for a partnership. This is just the beginning." "Okay, Damien," Natalie cooed, snuggling against him. "I'll go talk to my dad right away. He's been wanting to get out from under the Blackwoods' influence for a long time anyway. I'm just sorry you had to put on that act for so long, pretending you didn't know me." "All for the family's sake," Damien said, feigning sympathy. I watched with cold fascination as the comments went wild in my vision. And there's the system making its first move. The hero uses this to get ahead of so many business deals. Classic trope, foreknowledge of government policy changes. Side character should just give up. You can't fight a system like that. Can't fight it. I thought with a humorless smile spreading across my face. I opened my family's secure chat group and tagged my uncle who was a director at the Port Authority. Uncle, any big inspections planned at Eastgate Pier soon? 3 minutes later, a reply popped up. A surprise inspection is set for next Monday. Why the sudden interest, Ethan? I toyed with my pen, a predatory smile on my face, and typed back. Just heard the view from Pier 3 is especially nice this time of year. Maybe give it some extra attention. For safety reasons, of course. Mom, why do you wake me up so early? I stumbled downstairs, rubbing the sleep from my eyes and yawning. It was barely 8 in the morning, and I'd been up late planning. I found my mother perched elegantly on the sofa, the morning sun caught in her hair, revealing a few new strands of silver. She'd been stressed, running between home and the company since the wedding disaster. You'll see, she said, her smile hiding a secret. The crystal earrings she wore danced as she shook her head playfully. Guess who's here to see you? I flopped onto a silk cushion like a rag doll and grabbed a cherry from the fruit bowl, popping it into my mouth. What did Marcus get himself into this time? Does he need bail money? It's your Uncle Victor's daughter, my mother said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. She just got back from Wharton with her MBA. She graduated early. She leaned in closer, excitement in her eyes. I hear she once cracked the trading algorithm for a major Wall Street hedge fund during her internship. Your father was thinking. Before she could finish, the sound of light, quick footsteps descended the spiral staircase. Is Ethan still sleeping? The voice was as bright and clear as a melody, musical almost. I nearly choked on the cherry pit. I looked up to see a girl in a black pleated skirt bouncing down the stairs, a brilliant smile on her face. Isabella Chen. I shot upright, my eyes wide. The little girl with a perpetually runny nose who used to steal my video game controller and beat me at every single game had somehow transformed into this vibrant, radiant young woman. Her hair was in twin ponytails that swayed as she moved. She hopped over and plopped down next to me, a wave of citrus-scented perfume washing over me. Surprised, she asked, her eyes twinkling. I applied for early graduation so I could make it to the wedding. Though it looks like I missed the real main event. She waggled her phone in my face. The top trending hashtag was hashtag Harborview City Billionaire left at altar. Suddenly the comment feed exploded in my vision with new energy. Wait. New character unlocked. This girl is awesome. Way better than that two-faced Natalie. OMG, the way she swings her legs when she sits is so cute. I ship them already. Plot twist incoming, calling it now. I fought the urge to palm my face. Just as I was about to say something, my phone started vibrating non-stop in my pocket. A flood of texts from Marcus poured in. Ethan, that guy Damien registered a new company, Apex Capital. Natalie invested her entire dowry into it. They're buying up scattered shares of our subsidiary companies. This could be a problem. Isabella had leaned over my shoulder, her hair brushing against the back of my hand, her perfume intoxicating. Wow, these short-selling commands are written so crudely, she observed, her finger tapping on a chart of Damien's company's trading history. She wrinkled her nose in professional disdain. A sudden all-in buy on renewable energy stocks at 10:15 a.m. on Wednesday. That's 3 hours before the official policy announcement. Someone's either incredibly lucky or incredibly illegal. A jolt went through me. It seemed Damien's system was feeding him more than just vague tips. This was specific, actionable intelligence. Isabella's warm breath tickled my ear as she leaned closer to the screen. They seem pretty arrogant about their methods. You want me to build a high-frequency trading model and play with them a little? It would be fun, like a puzzle. I cleared my throat, trying to maintain composure, putting on my most serious face. I'll leave it in your capable hands. Show me what Wharton taught you. Across the room, my mother was smiling so wide I thought her face might crack. She caught my eye and gave me an encouraging nod. The next morning, I found Isabella curled up on the cashmere rug in the living room, a laptop balanced on her knees. She was chewing on a strawberry-flavored lollipop, her fingers flying across the keyboard in a blur of motion. The flickering stock charts on the screen danced in her eyes, making them glitter with intelligence and focus. I stood there for a moment, lost in a memory from years ago. It was a sunny afternoon, and I was walking home from school when I saw a little girl crouched under a tree, staring intently at the ground. Curious, I walked over. "Hey, what are you doing?" "Shoo," she whispered, putting a finger to her lips before turning back to her task. "I'm conducting a microecological study on the migratory behavior of communal insects of the family Formicidae." I followed her gaze. She was watching ants, studying them with scientific intensity. With nothing better to do, I crouched down beside her and watched too. That was the day we became friends. "Hello, Earth," to Ethan. Isabella's hand waving in front of my face snapped me back to the present. "They've increased their position this morning," she said, turning the screen towards me. She used her lollipop stick to circle a section of Apex Capital's cash flow diagram. "This pattern of buying." She suddenly burst out laughing, a genuine, delighted sound. "Doesn't it look like he's just copying trades directly off the morning's financial news feeds? It's so obvious it's almost insulting." Looking at her bright, intelligent face, I remembered a comment from last night mentioning Red Queen, the code name of an infamous international rogue trader who'd never been caught. Before I could ask if that was her, Marcus burst into the room, out of breath, his tie askew. "Ethan, all 20 of the Crawford family's cargo ships just entered Pier 3. They're sitting ducks." Isabella's eyes lit up with mischief. She skipped over to the wine cabinet with practiced ease, pulled out a bottle of 82 Lafite, and poured 2 glasses. "A little toast to celebrate," she asked, swirling the deep red liquid expertly. She looked like a sly cat who'd just cornered a mouse. "The Port Authority's special inspection team should be opening the first container right about." She checked her delicate watch. "Now." As if on cue, a news alert flashed on my phone with a loud ping. "Breaking, massive smuggling ring busted at Pier 3. Seized goods valued at over $1 billion. Crawford family implicated." The article's main photo was a close-up of a Crawford family cargo ship, its hull plastered with seizure notices while Mr. Crawford sat slumped on the ground in front of it, his head in his hands. On the security feed from the Crawford house that I still had access to, Natalie was screaming at Damien, her voice shrill with panic. "Damien, what happened? You said it was a sure thing. You said Pier 3 was safe." "It should have been," Damien stammered, staring at his watch in confusion. "Pier 3 was supposed to be a blind spot, a favor for someone important in the system," the data said. He trailed off, unable to explain why his cheat ability had failed him. He quickly tried to change the subject, his voice taking on a desperate edge. "It's too late for that now, Nat. You have to trust me. This was just a fluke, a glitch in the system. Give me the rest of your funds, and I'll figure out a way to get your father out of this mess." Isabella was curled up next to me on the sofa, watching the drama unfold on my phone screen. We caught each other's eye and shared a smile of satisfaction. The comments were a frenzy in my vision. "Main character fail. LMAO. I thought the system was supposed to predict the future. This is hilarious. He predicted himself right into federal custody. System malfunction. Or is the side character actually fighting back? This is getting interesting." I opened the family chat group. My Uncle Thomas had sent me a thumbs-up emoji, followed by, "Good instincts, nephew." Just as I was about to reply, Isabella nudged me, handing me a glass of wine. "Don't celebrate just yet," she warned, her expression turning serious. She pulled up Apex Capital's latest trading records on her laptop. "Damien cashed out $2 billion this morning before the news broke. He's using it to acquire floating stock in the Blackwood group. He's targeting your company directly now." I looked at her and smiled, genuinely grateful. "Good thing I have you, right, genius." A light blush rose on her cheeks, but she lifted her chin like a proud little peacock. "Obviously. Leave it to me." Her fingers went back to dancing on the keyboard with renewed focus. But after a few minutes, she bit down on her lollipop, cracking it with a sharp snap. Her brow furrowed in frustration. "How does it feel like he knows my every move? It's like he's anticipating my strategies before I implement them." I watched her pouting and chewing on the shattered candy, and chuckled softly. "Have you considered the possibility that he actually has something that can predict the future? Not metaphorically, but literally. She looked at me like I was an idiot, then pressed the back of her hand to my forehead, checking for fever. "You don't have a fever," she muttered, concerned. I swatted her hand away gently, my expression serious. "I'm not kidding, Isabella. I'm being completely serious about this." I didn't know how to explain it without sounding insane. "Hey, so it turns out our world is some kind of cosmic novel, and Damien is the main character with cheat abilities. She'd have me committed to a psychiatric ward." Seeing the genuine worry in my eyes, she unwrapped a new lollipop and stuck it in my mouth, a gesture both playful and comforting. "Don't worry," she said confidently, her eyes sparkling with determination. "I have a plan. If he can predict the future, we'll make the present so chaotic he can't keep up." On the eve of the Harborview City Financial Summit, I stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows of my office, gazing out at the river that wound through the city like a silver ribbon. The sun was setting, painting everything in shades of gold and crimson. My phone lit up with an incoming call from Isabella. When I answered, her voice was hoarse from lack of sleep, but filled with excitement. "Ethan, you'll never guess what I found. This is huge." "I think what's more important is that you go get some sleep," I said, concerned. I knew she had been pulling all-nighters for days, surviving on coffee and determination. "No way," she protested. "Do you want to hear it or not? Because I could just hang up and keep this groundbreaking discovery to myself." She was pouting, I could hear it in her voice. I'm listening," I said quickly, smiling despite myself. "Tell me everything." I heard her triumphant little giggle on the other end, and my heart did something strange. According to my analysis, Damien Cross's investment decisions over the last 3 months align perfectly, and I mean perfectly, with the revision timestamps of classified files from the National Defense Strategy Institute. We're talking 99.7% correlation. I gripped my phone tighter, my voice dropping to a whisper. "Are you absolutely sure about this?" "Positive," Isabella said confidently. "The micro-receiver in his watch operates on the exact same frequency as a batch of decommissioned and supposedly destroyed devices from the Institute. Someone sold him military-grade intelligence equipment." Of course. So the so-called financial system was something else entirely, something far more sinister. But I was still confused about one thing. "Isabella, you said he could anticipate your moves. How did you? How did I get around his predictions?" she finished for me, her voice full of playful mischief. I could picture her sly grin. "I used a special algorithm I developed. The inspiration for it, well, you gave it to me all those years ago when we were talking about ant colony optimization." Her words took me back to that sunny afternoon, watching the ants with her for what felt like hours. I had watched, completely baffled by her patience and focus. Finally, I'd shrugged and said with all the wisdom of a preteen trying to impress a girl, "Computer algorithms are way cooler than ants." She had turned to look at me, her eyes wide with curiosity. "What are those?" I didn't have a clue, but a man can't admit defeat in front of a girl. I pulled a copy of Principles of Microeconomics from my backpack, a book I'd borrowed from my father's library, and said sagely, "To understand them, you must first understand this." She'd spent the next week reading that book, asking me questions I couldn't answer, forcing me to actually learn the material to keep up with her. Her voice pulled me back to the present, soft and hopeful. "Anyway, I'm thinking of calling it the Blackwood Chen algorithm. What do you think?" I could hear the faint, hopeful sound of her breathing on the other end, waiting for my response. I smiled, genuinely touched. "It's perfect, Isabella. Absolutely perfect." The financial summit arrived like a storm. The heads of Harborview City's 3 most powerful families, including my father, were chatting amiably in a corner, their laughter echoing through the grand ballroom. I swirled red wine in my glass, my eyes scanning the crowd for potential threats or opportunities. A small, familiar figure immediately caught my attention. Isabella darted over, her dress shimmering under the chandelier lights. "Ethan, stop looking around like you're on a surveillance mission," she teased. I reached out and patted her head gently, a gesture that had become comfortable between us. "What do you want me to do then?" Her eyes lit up with a mischievous spark that I was coming to adore. "Teach me how to waltz. I never learned properly." "All right," I nodded, taking her hand and leading her to the dance floor. Her hand was small and warm in mine. Behind us, I could hear our fathers laughing, their voices carrying across the room. "Victor, looks like your daughter has her sights set on my boy. Please, Jonathan, your Ethan is just as smitten with my Isabella. The way he looks at her. It wasn't clear before, but it looks like we might be planning another wedding soon. Third time's the charm, as they say." I had just placed my hand on Isabella's waist, feeling her warmth through the fabric of her dress, when the grand doors to the ballroom burst open with a loud bang. A disheveled Natalie, reeking of alcohol and desperation, stumbled in, followed closely by a frantic Damien who was being swarmed by reporters with cameras flashing. "This is all your fault," Natalie shrieked, her finger jabbing at my face accusingly. Her makeup was smeared, her hair a mess. Damien said if you hadn't messed with the future, if you hadn't interfered. My father slammed his wine glass down on the table with enough force to crack it, rising to his feet with a furious scowl. "How dare you show your face here?" But Isabella spun around gracefully, positioning herself in front of me like a shield. She held up her phone, which was playing a video, her voice clear and confident. "Hasn't Mr. Cross told you?" she asked, her tone dripping with false sweetness. "His ability to predict the future is actually stolen military AI. He's been using classified defense intelligence for personal gain." A collective gasp went through the room like a wave. At that moment, the large screen behind the stage flickered to life, displaying a detailed analysis of Damien's watch that Isabella had prepared. The evidence was damning, irrefutable. It wasn't a financial system or some miraculous prediction ability. It was a receiver for a stolen national defense predictive model, complete with serial numbers and classified markings. The comment feed went absolutely ballistic in my vision, more active than I'd ever seen it. "Holy shit, he's a spy. So that's the underlying logic of his cheat ability. The author of this story is asking to be arrested for writing this. Natalie, run girl, this plot is insane. This is the best plot twist ever." "Take him away," I said calmly. Marcus appeared as if on cue, leading a team of federal agents into the room with military precision. Damien struggled as they pinned him, his face contorted in a mask of rage and disbelief. "It's a lie. It's all a slanderous lie," he screamed, thrashing against his restraints. "I have a high-tech system from the future. I'm the main character. This can't be happening." Every reporter in the room captured the moment, their cameras clicking like a swarm of insects. One particularly ambitious journalist shoved a microphone in his face, hungry for a quote. "Mr. Cross, do you have any comment on your current situation and the evidence against you?" "I'll comment on your mother." Damien roared, completely unhinged now, thrashing against his restraints like a wild animal. The reporter scrambled back into the crowd, clearly having gotten more than he bargained for. Seeing it all fall apart, watching her fantasy crumble to dust, Natalie's eyes rolled back in her head and she collapsed in a heap on the marble floor. The sound of her body hitting the ground echoed through the sudden silence. It was all real. Damien had lied to her, and she had thrown everything away for him, her family, her future, her reputation, all of it. I looked down at her, crumpled on the ground, her expensive dress now stained and wrinkled. I vaguely remembered how she had looked 3 years ago, laughing on a carousel at the fair, her face lit up with genuine joy. Now she was just a broken mess, muttering over and over like a damaged recording, "It can't be. Damien wouldn't lie to me. It's all fake. It has to be fake." Just before the agents reached her, she scrambled to her feet with surprising speed and lunged at me, grabbing my hands and falling to her knees. Her face was a mess of tears and smeared makeup, mascara running down her cheeks in black rivers. "Ethan, I was wrong. I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I know you still love me. You have to. Let's get back together. We can get married tomorrow. I'll be better, I promise. Please, Ethan, please." I looked down at her, my eyes as cold and empty as a winter sky, feeling nothing but a distant pity. The comments flickered one last time in my vision. This woman deserves zero sympathy. Ethan, don't you dare take her back. Knowing his original personality, it's hard to say. Wait, guys, she's already pregnant with the hero's kid. He doesn't know. Taking her back now would make him the ultimate chump. Don't do it, man. Wait, what? Pregnant? Under Isabella's hopeful, expectant gaze, and with this new information burning in my mind, I sharply pulled my arm from Natalie's grasp. I smoothed my sleeve with deliberate care and spoke, my voice devoid of all emotion. "Miss Crawford, I have no idea what you're talking about. Do I know you?" I paused, then delivered the final blow. "Now that your father and your lover are both on the way to prison, and considering your current condition, I suggest you figure out your priorities. Perhaps focus on the innocent life you're carrying instead of chasing fantasies." That final sentence seemed to be her breaking point. All the fight went out of her like air from a punctured balloon. She slumped to the ground, allowing the agents to lift her to her feet and lead her away. The sound of sirens faded into the distance. As the chaos settled, Isabella suddenly took my hand, her grip firm and warm. She looked up at me, her long eyelashes fluttering. "Ethan, I think my blood sugar is a little low," she said, her voice soft and playful. I was about to call for a waiter, concerned about her health, but she tightened her grip on my hand, preventing me from moving away. Then she stood on her toes, and I felt the warm, soft press of her lips against mine. The world seemed to stop for a moment, the noise of the ballroom fading into distant white noise. Did I just get kissed? A smattering of applause broke out around us, growing into enthusiastic cheering. The sound of my father and her father clinking their glasses together was especially loud, their laughter echoing across the ballroom. A final line of golden text scrolled across my vision, different from all the others. "Congratulations, host. You have successfully broken free from the plot's constraints. This viewing system will now uninstall. We recommend purchasing a viewing pass for the sequel, My Billionaire Husband's Unconditional Love. Thank you for participating in this narrative experience." Isabella buried her face in my chest, her voice muffled against my suit jacket. "It took you long enough to finally look at me properly." So her standoffishness back in high school, the way she'd always seemed distant when I talked about Natalie, it wasn't because she disliked me or found me annoying. She'd been jealous, watching me waste years on the wrong person. I wrapped my arms around the trembling girl in my embrace, feeling her heartbeat against mine. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled a real, genuine smile that reached my eyes. "I'm looking now," I whispered into her hair. "And I'm not looking away again." 3 months later, I saw Natalie on the street across from the Federal Detention Center. She looked exhausted, her face gaunt and pale, dark circles under her eyes. Her stomach was visibly rounded now, probably 6 months along. When she saw me walking past, her eyes lit up with desperate hope and she hurried over as fast as her condition would allow. Noticing my gaze drop to her belly, she quickly covered it with both hands, as if hiding it could erase reality. "It's not Damien's," she said quickly, her voice desperate and pleading. "It was that night after the wedding. I was drunk and confused. I don't even remember." I gave her a sidelong glance, my expression neutral, and walked right past her without breaking stride. I was heading towards Isabella, who was just stepping out of a boutique across the street, shopping bags in her hands and a bright smile on her face. Natalie stumbled back and fell to the sidewalk, landing hard on the concrete. Silent tears streamed down her pale face as she watched me walk away. "You told me you'd love me forever," she whispered to the empty air, to the ghost of who I used to be. Isabella linked her arm through mine, her warmth chasing away the cold memory. She noticed the woman on the ground behind us, concern flickering across her face. "What's wrong with her? Should we call a doctor or something?" I stroked her hair gently and smiled, pulling her closer. "Why don't you worry about when we're getting married instead? My mother's already planning the menu." Her face instantly turned bright red, the blush spreading to her ears. "Who wants to marry you?" she protested, but her grip on my arm tightened. Back at the office later that day, she slapped a flash drive on my desk with a flourish. Engraved on the back in elegant script was the name Red Queen. It contained the complete code for the Blackwood algorithm, worth millions. "A dowry," she said, her ears glowing red as she waved a document in her other hand. "And don't get the wrong idea. This is just an equity transfer for business purposes. It's not like I want to marry you or anything." I took the document, scanning it quickly. She was transferring 30% of her personal assets to me, a fortune by any measure. "Isabella. Don't," she cut me off, her voice soft. "You saved me from wasting my genius on the wrong battles. The least I can do is help you build an empire." Outside my window, new leaves were unfurling on the trees, fresh and green. Spring had arrived in Harborview City. On the glass, a single worker ant was making its slow, determined climb toward the sky, just like all those years ago. I looked at Isabella, who was trying to hide her smile behind a stack of papers, and realized something profound. Sometimes the person you're meant to be with is the one who's been beside you all along, watching ants and dreaming of algorithms. Isabella. She looked up, her eyes meeting mine. Thank you for waiting. Her smile could have lit up the entire city. Thank you for finally seeing me. And as the sun set over Harborview City, painting everything in shades of gold, I knew that this wasn't the end of a story. It was the beginning of ours.